Here we are at the appointed place and at the appointed hour. So on the behalf of Gurdev, all the staff here, and myself, welcome. Anybody here first time? Yes? No? So everybody's familiar then, yes? So I don't need to go through the bathroom thing, wear shoes outside, put your shoes on the rack, strips for snoring, Band-Aid in the bathroom, right? Everybody okay with that? Yes? All right, so, gee, that makes it really simple right there. Next, in the course of our time together, there's some personal contact with me and with our mentors. We've been together, I guess, as a team 5-6 years, something like that. I'm not quite sure, but in that neighborhood. So I would like to introduce to you the mentors that will be leading segments, portions, morning sadhanas, and actually in a much more direct way as you begin to demonstrate an understanding and capacity to layer these principles, these techniques, on top of whatever yoga system that you already know. These will be the people who would be with you. Here against the wall, who's ready to edit anything I say, is Inu. And this is Ramdas. And here in the soft cushions is Vida. And as I've said, we've been together for a number of years. I usually also start by saying, to ask your permission not to say anything about my personal history. I'm called Chandrakant, but that's not who I am, nor is your name who you really are. That's what we're about these 10 days, that kind of, as Gurudev says, solving the only problem that you have is you don't know who you really are. So Chandrakant is not who I really am. And the reason that I'm saying that is if I go off to some list of a number of things that I've done and acknowledgments that have been given to me, it's very likely that you could start to imagine something about me that may not be accurate. And if you look towards the end of this, we will see that we've carried a number of opinions, ideas, memories, and notions. We have a lot of baggage that's not all upstairs in your, by your bed. And I would prefer, if it's okay with you, to say, we can be friends, but not to go any long list to sort of clutter up what we're trying to unclutter in the first place. Okay, does that make some sense? So that being said, I usually say someplace very close to the front, and I'll say it now. In that light, do not believe a word I say. How about you can feel, all right, this character, mysterious, whatever, don't believe a word I say. But if you see for yourself, through direct perception, something that you can verify without me telling you it, then I would suggest that you give your attention to that. Because we're in a process of illuminating something that is self-evident. It doesn't rely on me telling you about it, doesn't rely on anybody other than your direct perception, and it will be verifiable by the scriptures as you would see. Okay? So I want you to feel comfortable with a little bit of who am I? We don't really know, but he said I don't have to believe him, but if I see it for myself, then that would be very valuable. Wouldn't you agree? It would be yours rather than borrowed from me. Well, as Chandrakant says, who cares? All right? That's good? Yeah? All right. Now I'm also imagining that since this is not your first time here, everybody is familiar with what we refer to as the board of directors. Yes? No? Not so much? Was it, yeah? That's a yeah. Okay. A yes or okay. So we are I'll just say this in a very large way, we are a living, energetic lineage. A direct energetic spark has come through, a stimulation of prana has come through the very fabric of existence, through the board of directors up here. So we leave this chair empty, and this is where Yogi Desai, who most of us here will call Gurudev, which means beloved teacher, and you've probably seen him on the brochures. In the middle is his guru meaning someone who takes you from darkness to light, and we'll hear more about that as our time goes on. Swami Sri Kripalananda, who Gurudev met when he was, I think, 16, something like that. Here is, we call Swami Kripalu Babaji, is sort of like grandpa. You know, he kind of has a grandpa-ish sort of demeanor. And here is his guru, which is an expression, the 28th expression of consciousness, referred to as Shiva. So this is the 28th incarnation of Shiva. And over here, we have Radha and Krishna. And you probably can see just from your own experience that there's up and down, left and right, front and back, male and female, day and night, yin and yang. There's a kind of polarity, of opposites. And those opposites are intimately connected with each other. You know, happiness doesn't come without some unhappiness, you know, those kind of things. So this is an expression of that dynamic polarity between unmanifest, unmodified, spacious awareness, Krishna, and his consort, Radha, who is, we could say, the material out of which all of manifestation is a creation. So you have the unmanifest and the manifest as an ultimate duality to be pondered so that you move beyond name and form into the singularity, okay? Consciousness itself. So the board of directors are definitely energetically involved, so to speak, with what we'll be doing over the next week and a half or so, okay? So that gives you a little bit of familiarity with the, I'm going to use this kind of casually, the closeness of the source of this lineage. There's not 25, 30, 40 swamis in between from where this was manifested to you. It's a very short kind of lineage, and oftentimes in those kinds of arrangements, the spark that has come through the very fabric of existence has not been dissipated through a number of other manifestations. Am I making sense? It's close to its pristine or pure, pure just meaning the present is not affected by the past. A more pristine, energetic spark. Okay, does that make some sense? Everybody kind of okay with that? And if at any point I say something you don't understand, please ask questions, and that's from now till you leave, okay? What I would like to do is, I usually kind of refer to is get us all on the same page, okay? And we're going to repeat or chant the sound of Om continuously for a little bit. As you'll probably hear throughout our time together, there's something very meaningful and significant about the sound of Om. So much so that Patanjali describes that meditating upon its meaning while you're chanting it removes all the obstacles and simultaneously reveals the inner self. So that's a pretty heck of a statement for just, it is so hard to accessorize, like little Om things, on t-shirts and the like. And not many people look into it, meditate upon its meaning in such a way that it removes all the obstacles and simultaneously reveals the inner self. Okay? So we'll make the sound of Om, and sometimes yoga gets to be a little efforting, so you're not going to Om yourself into heaven. Om, 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 Om. Okay? It's actually a pranayama. And you just take a big, slow, deep breath in, and you make the sound of, in Sanskrit, A, and you go together and make O, so it's Om. Leave room for the okay, because that's a very significant syllable in the sound of Om. So, and be attentive to, there's also another sound. If we say a, there's a fourth sound, because you start in silence, right? When you go into a concert hall, everybody, and then the music starts, and then you're absorbed in the music, and at the end of it all, and there's a, before everybody claps. So the same thing in the sound of Om, be attentive to the fourth quality of this silence on both ends of this vibratory reverberation that rises up in you with that sound. Now I'm just going to add one small little endeavor, that as we use this pranayama, slow breath in, relaxed breath out, slow breath out, simply observe where in the body you feel the vibrational reverberation from the sound of Om. You don't have to do anything about it, you don't have to try and make it bigger, just notice where you feel the sensation from the sound of Om. And towards the end, when we're beginning to close, you'll hear my voice say, and now simply make the sound of which is the last syllable. And if you notice any movement in the location of that sound in your body, just simply notice that. Okay, that's all we're doing here. We're just getting on the same page and sort of noticing sensation. Okay, everybody all right with that? So you can put your things aside and sit up attentively, but without making yourself overly concerned with your position. Gently begin to close the eyes, simply to begin to eliminate a large amount of sensory data that needs to be processed. And without struggle and without strain, simply begin to lengthen the depth of your inhalations and exhalations just slightly. Relax your abdomen. Relax your shoulders. And begin to allow all expression to fade from your face. And when it feels appropriate, please join in. Oh. from this stillness, place your hand on your body where you felt and noticed the vibratory reverberation from chanting the sound of Om. And if you noticed any change in that location when you changed to the sound of move your hand to that spot. And recognize from your own direct experience that you already have the capacity to feel and recognize the subtle movement of energy in your body. Through your own direct perception, you now know you already have the capacity to feel and recognize the subtle movement of energy in your body. You can allow your hands to flow back down into your lap, onto your knees or thighs. And simply notice the speed of your mind, the rhythm of your breath, the ease in your body. Again, subtly verifying that you can recognize this quiet mind, soft breath, and ease in the body. And when you're ready, you can gently begin to open your eyes.
Chandrakant.
Oftentimes Sanskrit words get used and we may know something about it and may not. Swami Kripalu Babaji encouraged those of us who are kind of following in the energetic wake of Dadaji and Babaji to greet each other with the phrase Jai Bhagwan. Jai means victory or hail. And Bhagwan, well, some folks oftentimes have an allergic reaction to the word God. So Bhagwan means the big spirit. You probably have read some history that way back when it took like 3-4 months to get from one civilization to another civilization, that there were local gods. Everybody had local gods. And when people didn't travel too much, there wasn't much, your local gods. But as people began to travel, it seemed like these gods, or at least their followers, their disciples, began to bicker amongst themselves. And we can see even today that people will kill each other over local gods. Okay? Well, this Bhagwan in Jai Bhagwan, this Bhagwan is so vast, so infinitely vast, that everybody is in and nobody is out. Whether you like it or not, believe it or not, diss on it, spit on it, turn your back on it, step on it, everybody is in and nobody is out. And that includes the person that's sitting on your pillow. So Babaji encouraged us from the beginning to, when we greet each other, recognize that Bhagwan, it takes all kinds of shapes and forms, but Bhagwan, that we greet each other, taking a moment, Jai Bhagwan, sure. Jai Bhagwan, to set a tone of understanding about what this relationship is with what appears to be the outside world. Okay, does that make some sense? So I want to, usually at the front end, I end up saying something about Jagagwan, because you'll hear that, people, Jagagwan, Jagagwan, yeah, you late Bhagwan, come on over here. Or sit down, shut up. Okay. All right. So I wrote here on the board, what you want in the end must be present in the beginning. So what is it in this meditation in motion that we want in the end? Well, we want some kind of an attunement between consciousness and the manifestation of consciousness. Yes, that makes some sense? All right. So something that has to be present in the beginning. We just got started, right? So it has to be, and if you reflect a little bit, when I asked you to simply put your hand on your body where you felt the vibrational reverberation from the sound of Om, you felt some vibratory thing in your body, right? Yes? So that would be Radha, because it's a form, it's a material, it's a sensation, it's stuff, right? But there was something that recognized it, didn't it? How did you know? Wasn't there something aware of it? No or yes? Look at your own experience. And that awareness, how big is it? Does it have any color? Does it weigh anything? So you actually got a whiff, a fragrance of the unlimited, unmanifest Bhagwan. So infinitely vast that vibration came up in it and now it's gone. Just like the sound of Om came up in it and now it's gone. Like all the experiences that you've had in your life where you say, my God, how will I make it through this day? And look, you're here. Everything's pretty cool, right? Yes? So right in the beginning, what you want in the end, this knowing, this dynamic interaction between this knowing presence that knows everything. It knows that you're listening to these words. It knows the sensation where your butt's on the cushion. It knows the sound of Om. All of those things are stuff. And there's this knowing presence. So you are already that which you've been looking for, but I think, as you said, it's had a little shellac, I think you called it. It's got some sticky stuff on it, all right? Some sticky stuff. So in the past, very close to the front, I would ask people what you believe about yourself determines the way you see yourself. If you think you're a beanbag, that's the way you see yourself, as a beanbag, right? If you just, your hair looks good, oh yeah, I'm good today. You good today, right? So what you think or believe about yourself determines how you see yourself. And if you think that you're a beanbag, and you oftentimes see beanbagness in other people, that's the way you see the other, and the way you see the world is just filled with beanbags, right? Okay? If you see yourself as the body-mind apparatus, I know who I am, this body, then you see yourself as a body-mind apparatus. You see others as a body-mind. You see the world filled with body-mind apparatus. Yes? Or apparati, I don't know which way it would be. Okay? If you see and know yourself as this knowing presence, Krishna consciousness, Christ consciousness, Buddha consciousness, if you know yourself as consciousness, what do you think happens? You see others as consciousness, Bhagwan. And you see the world as an expression of Bhagwan, consciousness. Okay, does that make some sense? So I would usually ask people, well, what is it that you actually believe about yourself? And I would ask this so that people would ponder it, but as you will experience by the end of God knows how many days we have together, I will have said so much. We've had so many experiences, we've done so many things, that you will forget tonight. So if I ask you, what do you actually believe about yourself? Do you believe that, you're not quite right? You know what I mean? There's something a little off in you. I'm not quite sure what it is, but you don't feel comfortable in your skin. There's something a little kisky-wumpus. That's a very technical yogic term. Okay, kisky-wumpus, right? Do you believe that you're kisky-wumpus? Or do you believe that you are unlimited, unmanifest, ordinary awareness? We usually believe we're a little kisky-wumpus. That's why we're, buying yoga mats and, doing all that other kind of stuff. And that's one way to start. But what you do on your yoga mat will be very, very different than if you believe about yourself, if you know that you are this unmodified, actionless, knowing presence already. Then whatever you do on the yoga mat is entirely different. You are no longer trying to be something that you're not. This might be even too much busyness. You're just sort of applying the shellac remover, which is simply consciousness itself. Okay? Does that make some sense? But I say this in the beginning, but I don't go back to it. I don't keep asking you about it. So I'm going to start with something a little bit of a different question tonight. Where do you actually exist? This is not a trick question. Just look at your own experience. Where do you actually exist?
Well, honestly, the more that I do yoga and pranayama, I really feel like I do exist in my breath. I really do. And I feel very safe there, which when I said that to some people, I was so surprised because I'm still sort of recovering from PTSD in my lifetime experience, but this experience of feeling safe in my breath is really beautiful.
Well, where does your breath exist?
It just seems movement, in and out.
In and out of what?
Space.
And where is that space that it goes in and out of? Where does your breath take place?
Yeah, well, in everything.
And would it be here now or not here now?
It's here now.
So your breath would take place
In
here.
the here and now.
Ah, okay. So
yeah.
you actually...
No, that's it. You got it. Because there's one thing about coming into the here and now that is safe. You
Okay,
can
so
be
let's
there.
let's just hold on.
Okay.
Your breath takes place where you actually exist, and where you actually exist is here and now. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Anybody else? Where do you actually exist? Anybody else exist someplace else? So let's look at that for a moment, because when you walked into the room, and I think maybe you might have been the first person sitting quietly, you probably walked into the room and it seemed like, it felt like, it thought like, it looked like, what? Here and a now, right? It was here and now, yes? And when you were having dinner and you were going down the line and you were kind of, oh, I wonder what this tastes like, or it seemed like what? It seemed like a here and now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And when you drove in the gate, and you kind of, oh, yeah, okay, and it felt like what? Here and now, didn't it?
Pretty much. I mean, I'm always a little nervous.
But where is your nervousness? Where is your nervousness? Is it in the past or is it in the
No,
future?
it's now. Yeah.
Okay. So when you got up this morning, it seemed like what?
Just
Here now, right?
Yeah.
So if we look at here and now, is it possible for you to go back and experience walking into the room? You can have a memory about it, right? But you can't really experience that, correct?
Right.
Is there any way you can rush ahead and experience something in the future? All right? So if you're looking at your own experience, it always feels and appears and thinks as though it's what? Here, now. And for all of us, just look across your entire life, and has it ever been any place other than here and now? So if it's always here and now, we're really calling into question this whole concept of the past and the future. Because to have time, you have to have past, right? But it's certainly possible to have a thought about a memory you've had in the past that you're not having now, but where are you actually? And if we don't believe a word I say, look for yourself. Has it ever been in your entire life any place other than here, now? Even when you were filled with the most anxiety about things, it felt like what?
Yeah.
The deepest depression is just, I'm having unwanted thoughts here and now. So if it's always here and now, what's wrong with this? Until you think about it. Am I making sense here? What you want in the end has to be present in the beginning, but we are thinking that what we want in the end isn't present right now. And we gotta get busy. We gotta get busy to actually be in some place that it's impossible to be any place else. Has anybody ever had an experience any place other than it was always here and now? Am I making sense? And as we move forward, we'll see that this is actually verified by Scripture. Scripture is not something that's been composed by an author. Scripture is given. It's a revelation. All right. So it's very, 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 very important in our time together that the starting point. That's why I usually would ask people, "What do you believe about yourself?" Because if we decided we liked each other, and I'm warming up to them, but and we're gonna rent a bus. And we're gonna go to Disney World together, right? We're gonna rent a bus, so the bus comes, and we have some lunch bags and our day packs, and we get on the bus. Disney World is south, but if we go out the driveway and go north, it's gonna be a long time before we get to Disneyland, right? So the same thing is happening here. What you believe about yourself begins to determine which direction you're going towards Disney World. Am I making sense? And what we've attempted to reveal is that if the only place that you exist is here and now, then whatever it is yoga is about, or whatever it is enlightenment about, whatever consciousness is about, whatever all those words, it must be embedded in the experience that we're having right here now. Wouldn't you agree? Go ahead and ask a question, Rhonda. I can see it percolating.
Okay, the Amrit prayer it concludes from time-bound consciousness
To the timeless
to
state.
the timeless state of being, or eternal state of being, we already always are.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about here and now, we're really talking about a state of timelessness.
Because we can
that
see
correct?
from our discussion, you can't really find the past or the future other than a thought about it, right?
So we're living in timelessness.
Your beingness,
My beingness is
that which you truly are, is timeless.
timeless, not time.
It's eternal. But this body-mind apparatus takes in sensory data and runs it through a software package called mind. Mind is unable to fathom infinite or eternal. Krishna consciousness, Buddha consciousness, Christ consciousness. So that the eternal, run through the apparatus of mind, thought, appears as time. And infinite, run through the apparatus of the senses, appears as space. Now we're rushing. This is we're moving.
Okay, so what we're learning to cultivate in the here and now, in the present moment, is a way to bypass that software of the mind. In a way.
It's a recognition that which you truly are is not the mind. So the mind can go ahead. The mind is not an entity. Most of the time we talk about people say my mind is doing this, and I always kind of puzzle a little bit. Like, if it was really your mind, you could tell it, go over in the corner there and be quiet for the next 2 hours, and I'll get you. Don't worry, I get you before I go out. And if you really think it's your mind, can you tell me what you will be thinking 3 minutes from now? So mind is not an entity, it's an activity. The activity of thinking, feeling, sensing, and perceiving. But just like we perceived and felt the vibratory reverberation in the body from the sound of Om, that's just focusing on the stuff. Something that had no shape, had no form, was the noticing, knowing presence. And because you can't really give it a name, it has no form. There was something that knows that. So now we're beginning to understand the freedom doesn't necessarily mean you have to stop the activity of mind. But when you know you are not a particular thing, then it doesn't plague you because you know that's not me. I mean, when we get up in the morning, has anybody ever said to themselves, I think I'm going to start thinking crappy thoughts? You never do that, really. If we got up in the morning, we would say, I'm on for some happy thoughts today. And see how that goes, right? So understanding what we refer to as mind is not an entity, which gives it a kind of solidity. And it makes it something that we will try to remove, get rid of. When you just know it's an activity, you don't get that involved in it. Because you know you are that witnessing presence. That knowing presence. That knew the vibrational reverberation at the location it was in your body. Something had to see that, right? Those two things weren't the same. Something was looking in your body, correct? And if you're really sensitive, you can see that the only information that we have about the body, if you close your eyes and you take out the memory and the thoughts what data do you have about the body? It's simply sensation. Isn't that your experience? Okay, so we're doing this kind of this evening, so as we begin to put tools together that you layer on what you're already doing, it makes sense in terms of a much larger structure of what we are doing. In a sense, it's withdrawing attention from sticky stuff to pranic stuff. Because prana can be used by the activity of mind to carry out likes, dislikes, wants, desires, all that other kind of stuff. Or the innate intelligence of prana can be left to itself, and it does what is actually naturally appropriate in the body. So there would be impersonal awareness and impersonal prana. Most of the time we think that consciousness is in here, it's very personal, and that we're going to use prana in a very personal way to get over to Salt Springs on time to hear this 7 o'clock thing, right? Does that make some sense?
Yeah, I'm bumping that up against the phrase, quote, the mind is a muscle, exercise it.
Well, if you say the mind is an activity, you can certainly reinforce and strengthen activity. But still, there would be a knowing presence that was aware of whatever it was, the stuff you wanted to strengthen. Energy would follow that. We'll have that experience with that. Energy would follow that. Okay, does that make some sense? When what we're about, knowing that you are already that which you've been seeking for, you don't have to like exercise a muscle, you simply relax. Relax. Because what is wrong with this? Until you think about it. And that's where those old patterns of the way we believe about ourselves, that we're not quite right. Like, I've had this crappy thought, and damn it, yamas and niyamas say, that's terrible. You know, you must be a beanbag, right? And there it goes. That's Patanjali's witnessing the modifications of mind, thoughts, right? Am I making sense?
Mm-hmm.
So this is to begin to set up an experience that we want to have. But before we do that, I want to make sure that I cover a little bit about what you'll be experiencing in the morning. Okay, so I will set that aside. We'll get there in a minute. We utilize the body. To reveal presence. Because body is very close to us. Yes? And you already kind of admitted that the only place you actually exist is where? Right. And through the senses, it's very easy to think that there's over there. So we're really focusing on using body to come more closely experientially attuned to present, the only place you actually exist. Okay, am I making sense? So in that beginning stage that we are presenting in the tools of the posture of consciousness, the beginning phase of the integrated Amrit method, we use certain devices, techniques, to begin to help reveal presence, this impersonal presence, and the impersonal intelligence of prana. Now you've already experienced that, because the presence was aware of where the vibratory reverberation was in your body. And I watched, and everybody put their hands on different places. So you've experienced that there's an innate intelligence in your body that it expressed in a particular place. You didn't make it move there, did you? You just noticed it was there. So it didn't require the you personality in order to check that out, right? Am I making sense? Don't just look at your own experience. So in life and on the yoga mat, there seems to be times when we are busy with the body, and there's times when we're not really busy that much. You're just sitting comfortably. So we can see that there's a polarity in action between activity and, let's say, just non-activity. Okay? So we utilize that, and it's referred to as the first and second half of the pose. So every position that we use and that we are going to encourage you to apply to your students as you begin to layer this onto whatever style of yoga you're familiar with, that you give after there's a nice stretch, however, whatever is being stretched, you know that there's been an opposite and equal reaction in the body, correct? But most styles of yoga will rush right into another pose, and Gurudev's perspective from his own awakening has a much more, I think as you said, a relaxed, slower pace, where here you are actively engaged, and here you are passively digesting what's been released. But we also use what's referred to as press points and energetic extensions. We will press usually into the ground one way, and we'll extend the other way, and you could probably feel in your body right now, if I'm doing, you can almost see it across my arms, through my shoulders, and out the other. So we're using very deliberately something to highlight and stimulate a specific feeling in the body. And that feeling is a sensation, correct? And we know that sensation, if you only have two choices between consciousness and energy, sensation would be energy, right? Consciousness is just, I don't know if that's exactly the way consciousness is, but so it would be energy, right? And in yoga speak, the word for energy is prana. So in the first half, where there's an active engagement, there's press points and energetic extensions which reveal energy and this knowing presence that's observing it. Am I making sense? And if it's not, we'll just have you hold the pose longer until you, oh yeah, now I feel it. And there's something that, oh, there it is, right? Okay, so I don't think we have to go there, all right? So it's witnessing this consciousness of passive observing, because it doesn't do anything other than observe, and activity of prana, okay? In the second half, you're just encouraged to stand still and to observe, just like you did with the sound of Om, just observe the sensation in your body wherever it manifests, okay? So again, you have witnessing and the innate intelligence of prana, just like in the sound of Om. You didn't make the sensations go anywhere. It just appeared there, and you went, oh. You probably didn't even go, oh. It was just a simple knowing, correct? So in the second half, you're again refining this attunement to witnessing, or consciousness, and prana. All right? So in the first half and the second half, both of them are designed. This one is active, and you're stirring things a bit. Here you're digesting what's been released. Here it's witnessing in prana, and here it's witnessing in prana. So as Gurudev has said on a number of occasions, everything we do in our yoga, all of it, yoga nidra, meditation, is about prana, period. So we're cultivating the relationship with impersonal prana. Because when you get angry, you got a lot of energy in there, don't you? But you start putting, I don't like this, I hate that, but you put name and label on it, and now it's personalized. Okay, does that make sense? This doesn't have a label on it. You're not really even going, oh, you're not even doing that, but I'm making some gesture to call your attention to that impersonalness of it. Okay, am I making sense? So we have the first and half, the second half of the pose, and we have press points and energetic extensions. Now, it's very easy to fall into a popularized notion with yoga that you really want a good stretch. That's why I'm here. I'm get flexible. Or I'm gonna lose weight. You can get a little aggressive. There's a whole bunch of articles written about yoga injuries. Because people are encouraged to get in there and root that out. But we're already starting with, we know that we already are what we're looking for. So this is not about rooting something out. This is about relaxing so deeply with what is that it's simply released. It doesn't need a you. That's why when you go to sleep at night, you can feel sick or cold or something. And when you wake up in the morning, you always feel better, right? You can have a lot of nonsense going on in your head, and you always feel better. You didn't do anything about it. The natural intelligence of prana itself began to dissipate that contraction. All right, am I making sense? So we use a concept that we refer to as the edge. As the edge. So in the press points and energetic extensions, you may come up against where there is some contractions in the body. And oftentimes the usual tendency is, I'll get it. And then you have to go to a chiropractor or you know, yoga teacher training. Oh, you must twist more. I had to go to chiropractor the next day. Gurudev speaks about in the prayer that there's the line, lead me into lead me from darkness to light, which really sounds wonderful, doesn't it? You're like, oh, we'll just need some kind of spiritual sunglasses that come with your yoga mat, right? And you put them on and you tone it down a little bit, right? No, Gurudev actually explained that what he's saying is lead me into the illuminative light of awareness that sees both darkness and light in the same light. So at the edge, you're seeing tension and non-tension in the same light, but you understand that that tension in your body is a message from prana, because it's a sensation, and sensation is energy, and in yoga speak, energy is prana. So it's a message from prana to do what? Not fight and bulldoze into, relax. So the operational definition of the edge is your direct experience of your ability to remain relaxed, intersection with your first tendency to contract. Okay? Now there's an experimental edge with this that you should be aware of, especially if you were using poses that you're already familiar with, because you know where your contraction is, don't you? Think of a pose that you struggle with the most. It could be any pose. All right? And I'm leading you to go into that, and you're starting to come close of where it's hot, right? You start slowing down a long time before you get to the hot spot, don't you? Because you don't know how long I'm going to ask you to hold it, and you want to have a little something in reserve just in case, right? You know, I'm holding back a little bit, right? Am I describing your, I can see the laughs, so yeah. Gurudev refers to that as the psychological edge. That's why it's so important when we say we start by being what we're doing it for, because we already know that what we want in the end, this awareness, pranic thing, is already present. We can be relaxed as we come towards that and keep relaxing the psychological contraction through use of breath. Nobody's got a gun. If you get overzealous, just back up a little bit. You're learning how to be at the edge. And sometimes you have to go over your edge to understand, because we have these old patterns about, I'm going to scrub this stuff out of here, right? So you'll see as we move forward how important working at the edge is to being able to cultivate taking this into your life as a way of living and being. Because you can feel when your contractions rise up in your body about when you start to go pissy, gripey, grumpy. Don't you? You can feel it. And then the story usually starts, right? That's a key for you to do what? And relax. 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 So we're learning, in a sense, how not to get into a reactive pattern in the first place, rather than just willy-nilly walking through life. You go, I don't care, but I'm in a reactive pattern, and now I got to start changing my breath, get my beat, do some japa. I got to figure out how to get out. It seems like it would be much more effectively practical to cultivate a way of not going in the first place. And even when you're in, not going at, I got to get rid of this, as soon as you catch yourself, just start relaxing, and immediately that contraction begins to relax. Okay? I said this to some friends. I went to somebody comes to Vita's yoga class and some of the satsangs I give in Gainesville, and she's a massage therapist person, and I'm a deep tissue dude. You know what I mean? Like, let's go in there and bulldoze that stuff out. You know, that kind of stuff. And so I went to be with her, and she touches me like this. And I'm thinking, like, I'm paying some money for this, where's the bulldozer? And it's just, and then she would go on this side. And after I relaxed a little bit, with my expectations, it wasn't about money, but I was thinking, I could actually feel things elongate. And I was talking to her after, I said, yeah, that's incredible. She said, yes, what we do is we encourage the muscles to relax without giving the brain a message about tightness. Let that sink in a little bit with regard to the edge. And this is actually important not only at the posture conscious level, but even at the prana kriya level, because I've dragged with me a little bit of too much doing in the prana kriya thing. And relaxing more. And I'll tell you stories about Gurudev as we move forward with that. It's Babaji in the Science of Meditation, which we don't have to go to right now, but we have a commercial that will make you see. We're laughing already. Babaji said when the mind is directing the body and the nervous system remain tense. There's a subtle tension in there when you're mentally directing the body. Mm-hmm. That's why Gurudev would always demonstrate a posture flow. He didn't do a particular series of poses. So the whole key that we're cultivating is a deeper and deeper and deeper sense of relaxation. Okay? So the edge is very important. And yes, it's okay to get a nicer, it's okay to experiment, but what you want ultimately to begin to experiment with, that the warm light of awareness itself is enough to melt contraction. Okay, am I making sense? Especially in light of when we begin to talk about impersonal prana. Now, if impersonal prana takes you in there, then you're following that. But we're still at the beginning of this, and it's very easy for this activity of mind to show up in the most sneaky ways. It's easy to goof on yourself. It's easy to goof on yourself. All right. So we have the first and second half of the pose. We have press points, energetic extensions, and we have the edge. And we're going to present during the course of these 3 days the 7 principles, the integrated principles. But the first one that I wanted we'll go over tonight because it's easy to misconstrue integrative intention for a thought patterning. When integrated intention is actually a description of a specific energetic attunement. Did I make that clear? It's easy to consider integrative intention to be a mental activity, a mental concept, because the word intention means I want to be something that I'm not now. Correct? Usually, I have an intention to lose weight or get a college degree, or I have an intent. We think that an intention is a setting of a mental direction. Yes? And it's usually about a direction that is someplace other than where? Okay? So we have to look deeper into the description of integrative intention so that it becomes experientially now. There's an immediacy to integrative intention as opposed to it's something that's going to happen in the future. Especially when you understand the only place you exist is now. Okay, so we'll just throw it up on the board here. All right. And for the sake of anybody who's watching, we'll just down the line. Intend, what's that?
PION.
Thank you. All right, very good. I've added the eyeballs. I guess it could have been the other way, eyeball, or anyway, okay. Ramdas and I were talking earlier, and he was, for somebody who says as much as I say for as many years as I've been going, I said, I remember you saying it in 2009, I'm going, cripes, oh dear. And we usually, I used a particular analogy, which we'll see in a moment. Integration usually means some kind of coming together, right? Integration, right? Yes? And, various parts. And, we could say if we were all on the A train and you were going uptown to catch some jazz, and the train's jammed, and we're all sort of bouncing along in the A train, we could say that we were all we were integrated, in the train, but there would be individual, separate, distinct units, right? And maybe you don't want to be too close to that unit, and the train, you bump into them or that kind of stuff. So we would be integrated on the train, we were going uptown, we're going to hear some jazz, but there would be individual, separate, distinct units on the train, correct? Okay. Well, that's not the kind of integration that we're talking about here. If there were a pile of ice cubes there, and under the appropriate conditions, they all melted, you would have individual separate cubes, right? That's what a pile of ice cubes is, right? Yeah, there would be a stack of little cubes, right? And if we turned the heat up a little bit, or we waited long enough, what would happen?
The carpet would be wet.
Right, and there would be what?
Water.
A puddle of water, right? Well, you would have no distinctions. It would just all be water, correct? Now, it's no accident that you already know you're, 68%, 70% water already? So all the differences that we're bickering about in this world is probably about, 15-20% mineral content. Right? Because we're basically water. All right? So no distinctions is what integration actually means. No distinctions. No individual, separate, distinct individuals. No distinctions. All right, does that make some sense? Now, the last piece that I usually put out in the front of these, and this will be gone over in the next, as we start the meditation and motion training, and I would appreciate it if I make some of the same jokes. You just at least smiling would be, rather than, oh. But you can be assured I laugh at my own jokes, so whatever you do is absolutely fine. So, as we start to move a little bit deeper into this no distinctions aspect, this integrative intention, especially knowing that the only place you exist is where?
Here now.
Here and now.
All right.
Yeah.
That we're beginning to enter into the realm of what the scriptures describe as the truth. Reality. What's real. And it's very helpful because language can be a little misleading. If I say the word rose, what do you got?
Lots of things.
Well, what? Any?
Well, there was a woman here, Amaka Rose, and then Rose the flower, and Rose the color.
And see, so you don't know which one I'm talking about.
No, I don't.
Correct. And that's why I usually say I'm a small red-haired woman, but you already said that and included that, but I'm so grateful you said the other ones. So when language can be misinterpreted, right? So we need to have some kind of common agreement on what we mean by the phrase real or truth, right? So what qualities would something to be real or true have to have? What qualities for them to be real or true would they have to have?
As in universally true or true?
As in universal, period. How could something be true that wasn't universal? How could something be real that wasn't universal? Correct?
Would seem to be if we're gonna be all water in a line.
And if we're going to talk about truth, right? What other quality would it have to have?
You somehow have to know it, experience, or believe it. I mean, you have to get to it somehow.
Well, that you're getting close. If you had to get to it, would it be missing sometimes and present other times?
No, consistent.
It would have to be unchanging, correct? So it would have to be universal and unchanging. And the last one would be, we've already touched upon it, rhymes with aimless and starts with T. Yes, here we go. It couldn't be bound by, the old guys knew it, we don't know it, somebody in the future maybe, right? So the three qualities, that's something that we're going to investigate for us to verify its authenticity as real or true, it would have to be universal, unchanging, and timeless. Yes? Okay. And that's what Gurdjieff means by integrative intention. But your understanding is very important because the common assumption is my integrative intention is something that I put in place so that it guides me in the someplace other than here and now. Yes? But integrative intention means you are looking so deeply into now that you recognize the no distinctions, universal, timeless, and unchanging presence that you are. Am I making sense? Okay? So, time to have a little, I told you don't believe a word I say. It's time to have a little direct experience. Okay? So I would suggest that you put aside anything, your eyes will be closed. And once you see that, you don't have to take any notes about it. Once you see it about yourself, it's yours forever. All right? So, and if you would be so kind as to sit up attentively, but without making yourself overly concerned with the position of the body. And allow your hands to rest lightly on your knees or thighs, palms up. And if any time during this simple little 5-6 minute experiment you need to squiggle, wiggle, or scratch your nose, feel absolutely free to squiggle, wiggle, and scratch your nose. Okay? And then just as soon as possible, come back to these very simple instructions. Once again, gently begin to close the eyes, simply to begin to reduce the amount of sensory data that's being processed. And without struggle and without strain, gently begin to lengthen the depth of your inhalations and exhalations just slightly. Relax your abdomen. Relax your shoulders. And begin to allow all expression to fade from your face. And to captivate your mental capacities, visualize that you have a small opening in the center of your abdomen. And feel as though you're actually able to breathe in and out through that small opening in the center of the abdomen. If this visualization is a little challenging for you, you can simply touch yourself in the center of the abdomen, allowing that tactile sensation to orient your attention. And once you've established that tactile sensation, allow the hand to return to the knee or thigh, and then as best you can, you cannot do anything wrong. As best you can, feel as though you could actually breathe in and out to the center of the abdomen. All of your attention focused center of the abdomen. Notice any subtle sensations around the center of the abdomen and how soft your breath is as it gently flows in and out. As you take your next breath in, draw the breath in through the center of the abdomen. Allow your attention to sensation, the breath rise up in the torso and exit a small opening in the center of the chest. So the breathing pattern now, as you're drawing the breath in through the center of the abdomen, you're feeling the sensations along with your awareness rise up in the center of the chest, and it's exiting that small opening, center of the chest. Notice any subtle sensations around the center of the abdomen, the center of the chest, and let your ears be completely captivated by the soft sound of your own breath as it gently flows in and out. As you take your next breath in, draw the breath in through the center of the abdomen, close off that opening. Allow your attention to sensations to rise up in the torso, and now as though you could simply breathe in and out through the center of the chest. All of your attention focused at the center of the chest. Notice any subtle sensations that may be present around the center of the chest. And again, how effortless and soft your breath is as it gently flows in and out. As you take your next breath in, draw the breath in through the center of the chest. Split the breath and allow your attention and the sensations and the breath to stream down the arms and exit small openings, one in the palm of each hand. So the breathing pattern now, as you're drawing the breath in through the center of the chest, you're feeling your sensations stream down the arms with your attention. Breath exiting small openings, one in the palm of each hand. Notice any subtle sensations that may be present around the center of the chest, the arms, of the palms. And once again, notice how effortless your breath is, as though the breath was breathing you. As you take your next breath in, draw the breath in through the center of the chest, close off that opening. Allow your attention to stream down the arms, exiting small openings, one in the palm of each hand. And now as though you could simply breathe in and out through the palms of the hands. All of your attention focused in the palms of the hands. Feel the sensations gathering in the palms. And maintaining this visualization and concentration, breathing in and out through the palms of the hands, slowly, almost imperceptibly slow. Begin to allow the hands to lift up off the knees or thighs. Go slow. And keep breathing in and out through the palms of the hands as they begin to lift up off the knees or thighs. And as they begin to lift up off the knees or thighs, begin to rotate the forearms and the palms in such a way that the palms are facing one another. And when you feel the palms facing one another, without allowing them to touch, begin to bring the palms towards one another until you feel a slight magnetic pressure between the palms. And when you first touch that energetic sensation, see if you can ever so slightly pull the hands apart and then press together and begin to actually verify for yourself this inner attunement where you can feel the parameters of this energetic sensation between the palms. Just 1/8 of an inch. Actually, check it out for yourself through direct perception. And notice how the activity of mind has ceased. deeply absorbed in this sensation. And simply notice, what is it that stops your hands from going any closer together? What is it that stops your hands from going any farther apart as you press and pull the hands apart and together, right on that energetic edge? And now slowly, gently, begin to allow the hands to float back down into your lap, onto your knees or thighs. And notice the content of your mind. Notice the rhythm of your breath. In just a moment, I'm going to ask you to gently begin to open your eyes. And as you do, leave a portion of yourself anchored in this recognizable stillness as you bring a portion of yourself back into the room as you gently begin to open your eyes. As you gently begin to open your eyes, can you feel how you didn't really want to open your eyes? You know, everything is cool, right? This is good, we can just hang here, right? That was just 6 minutes. And look where you found yourself. Yeah? So I'm going to, anybody feel, it doesn't sound like this, but I make this noise. Anybody catch that a little bit? Yes? No? No?
There was some sound, it sounded almost like somebody's breathing, but it was
Yeah, it must have been going, no, I'm teasing you. What? Okay. So but you could actually feel, yeah, a little something between the palms, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So this is, it's okay if you did. This is a knack. And I usually ask, you know what a knack is? And most times folks keep quiet. I do the same thing. When somebody asks a question in the front, you know, if you keep quiet long enough, they're going to tell you, right? So remember when you're trying to learn to ride your bike and you couldn't do it, you know, you were falling down, first of all, with training wheels, you were really good, weren't you? But when the training wheels came off, that didn't go so well, right? And you might have, you know, your parents might have helped you. You say, how do people do this? I'll never ever be able to do. And the very first time you got it, you could never, ever, ever unknow that about yourself again. That's a knack, okay? So knacks, you couldn't ride your bicycle with no hands, right? You couldn't do that the next day. That takes some practice, some repetition, some practice, all right? So this is a knack, and it makes no sense at all that you're starting to go into the jackpot. You can feel you're going pissy, great, grumpy. Oh, where were we, dear? I'm back. That's kind of useless. You want to be able to just one breath. So when I asked you, notice the rhythm of your breath. Was anybody breathing like, oh God, why did I come to this thing? This is, if his eyes is closed, I'm out of here. I don't need to come. Oh God. Anybody breathing like that? Yes? No? How was your breath?
Good.
What?
It was nice and slow.
Slow, okay, slow. Rhonda?
Fluid.
There was a kind of constant ease to it, a metric of fluidity. Okay? Well, it doesn't take a Zen master to understand there's a specific breathing pattern for every physical, mental, emotional, and contemplative state, up to and including the breathless state of samadhi. We're not really concerned with the breathless state of samadhi. We're just going to set that over there. But you can see that there's a specific breathing pattern for every physical, mental, emotional, and contemplative state. Yes? I won't go into my movie exaggerations. Anybody remember the movie Here I Met Sally?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have whatever she said. You just goof it. No, not that anybody here would do that. But the movie people were goofing on you with breath. All right? So if you want to change your physical, mental, emotional, contemplative state, what do you change? Starts with B and rhymes with rest. Right? You understand that? Yes? Okay. So we're moving forward here. So when I said notice the content of your mind, did anybody have any thoughts like, did I lock the car? Jeez, where's my purse? When I said notice the content of your mind, did anybody have any thoughts? Yes? No? No? Rhonda's looking, okay.
I was just focused on the energy sensation, but it wasn't a thought per se, it was an observation.
Okay, right, but so there was no thought.
Not really.
Okay, now I'm going to ask the next question. When I said notice the content of your mind, did anybody see any things? I mean, did you see your kitty? Or, you know, big fat elephants in pink tutus, flashing lights? Did you see energy between the, did anybody see any things? No? Yes?
No, I
Okay.
did not.
So if I'm hearing you honestly, there was no thoughts, there were no things. Kirby, yes, isn't it? Georgia, okay. Georgia, no things, right?
Nothing.
Okay. When I said notice the content of your mind, did anybody know your age? So again, if you don't believe me, look in your own experience. There was no thoughts, there were no things, there was no age, right? When I said notice the content of your mind, did anybody know you were male or female? So there was no thoughts, no things, no age, no gender. Now go back and really look in the rearview mirror of experience. When I said notice the content of your mind, can you find your body? Georgia? No. All right. So if I'm hearing you honestly, now I don't believe me. Don't believe a word I say. Look at your own experience. There was no thoughts, no things, no age, no gender, no body. Now something must be reporting this to you, or how would you know it? Right? How would you know it? Something must be reporting it to you. Whatever's reporting it to you, can you find any edges to it? Did it like just stop at the edge of your head? You know, bump up against the wall in the shop, or maybe the lake, the road, ocean, Gulf? Can you find any edges to it? So if I'm hearing you honestly from your own experience, there was no thoughts, no things, no age, no gender, no body, no edges. And the last question, when I said notice the content of your mind, can you find you? Anybody? Babaji has described this particular exercise, the Kriya of Chitta and Prana, which you will come to know intimately in the meditation, and he's described it as the highest experience of yoga. This is a yogi of this caliber saying that you have just had the highest experience of yoga and you don't even have your yoga mat here. How can that possibly be? You've recognized that which is self-evident without any verification from an object or an authority. No thoughts, no things, no age, no body, no gender, no edges, no you. If I asked you, how big was it? How much does it weigh? Whatever's reported, how much does it weigh? What color is it? Does it have any mass or density? Where is its location? You've had the direct experience of that which you truly are. No distinctions. No distinctions. No thoughts, no things, no age, no body, no gender, no edges to you. No mass, no weight, no size, no color, no density, and no location. That's your direct experience. You've seen it for yourself. And the first experience of this meditation, this Kriya of Chitta and Prana, is I am is not the body. because you couldn't find your body. You are the witness of the senses, the mind, and prana kriya. Unmodified, no distinctions, unlimited, ordinary, actionless awareness. Now, there's something even deeper here, too, because we've talked about this impersonal prana. What was it, if there was no thoughts of things, no ways, no body, no generation, no mass, no weight, size, color, density, location, what was it that stopped your hands from going any closer, and what stopped them from going any farther apart? It wasn't you, was it? You didn't go, oh, he said don't bring him too, no, don't let him, I can go a little more, I can go a little more, I can go a little more. He said don't go, but that's not far enough. And, okay, I'm pulling by, there was none of that going on in there, was there? No, yes?
It's just sense.
So it was impersonal prana that was actually what you want in the end has to be present in the beginning. Unlimited, actionless, ordinary awareness and the impersonalness and the impersonal intelligence of the innate intelligence of prana. Yes, go ahead.
Would you suggest that everybody had the same experience?
All right, so let's check, because we have to check and see if it's universal, right? We have to check and see that. Do you think, from your own experience, that your experience of no thoughts and things, no ways, no boundaries, no energies, no mental weight, size, color, density, location was any different from anybody else in the room?
I don't think so, but I don't know.
Well, look at your own experience. There was no you and there was no them. How could there be any difference? Right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So now let's look a little farther. Would you think that if we went across the street to Jack's and we led this little experience, that's the bar, in case you don't know, across the street, do you think that their experience of no thoughts of things, no ways, no body, no gender, no measure, no mass, no weight, no size, no color, density, no location is any different than yours? How could it be? There was no bar, there was no them, there was no you. How could it be?
Yeah.
We want to rush to judgment because that's a very ordinary way of the activity of mind. But you've just experienced something that's beyond the scope of mind. Because you can't describe what was present other than to negate all objects. Now, you're at the supermarket, you want to get home to watch the news hour, you're in the 10 items lane, you have 6 items. Obviously, the person in front of you has 18, 20, you don't have to count, you can just tell, right? You know, you're trying to get, and it says cash only, and they're trying to write a check, drop their, can't find their ID, and you're ready to bulldoze them, you know, just use your cart to move them right out of the way. Do you think that there are no thoughts of things, the ways about you there? Do you think that's any different than yours? No? Yes? Now, you want a real stretch? How about a religious fundamentalist of any stripe that's planning to blow up innocent women and children? Do you think that there are no thoughts of things, no ways about you, no gender, no ways, no mass, no weight, no size, no color, density, no locations any different than yours? Zowie. That's a stretch, isn't it? But your own, what are you going to believe? Your mental activity and belief systems or your own direct experience? That's what we mean when we say Jai Bhagwan. Okay? Now you know what integrative intention is. It's always being in the knowingness of what you've just seen about yourself. That doesn't happen any place other than where? Perfect. It doesn't happen in the future. The only place integrative intention can happen is you being, human beings. I want to be so human. I want to experience all the human. Nobody talks about being. You've just had the direct perception of beingness itself. Am I making sense? So you've seen impersonal awareness and the innate intelligence of impersonal prana. Am I making sense? Now, I told you, don't believe a word I say. But you've seen something about yourself that we want to cultivate, nurture, and develop into a being way of life. I think Gerda was talking about you're moving from who I am not to the being that I am. This is what he's talking about. Okay, does that make sense? Now, I usually do something. Somebody said, I don't think she's here, where I rang the gong and they, people are still telling stories about it. I hear where I try to disturb you. You got to stay anchored on this, and I will do that in the second, when we go through this, just so you have, I don't know what I'll do, but just so you have a couple of different experiences about this. Because the question usually comes up, we have to see if it's not only universal, but if it's unchanging and timeless. Because we believe that sometimes we are conscious, and at other times we are unconscious. Don't we talk about ourselves like that? Can you tell me of a time when you were unconscious?
No, because I don't remember it.
And something has to say, I don't remember. So you're conscious of not remembering. You didn't cease to exist. Have you ever had an experience that you were not aware of? What kind of an experience would that be? So we have to really verify this unchanging timelessness of what we've just seen. Okay? All right? And because it's late, I won't be startling you and we'll maybe have some fun in the next session. But let's try this as an experiment. Okay? Let's try this experiment. So once again, if you'd be so kind as to sit up attentively, but comfortably. Your hands can rest however they feel comfortable in your lap, knees, or thighs. All right? And you can gently close your eyes. And just once again, this interior environment is affected by softening the breath. Just soften the breath slowly. And what I'd like you to do is mentally repeat along with me this simple sentence. Isn't it wonderful that we're all here together? Now repeat it mentally along with me. Isn't it wonderful that we're all here together? Isn't it wonderful that we're all here together? Now we're going to repeat mentally the same sentence, but we're going to slow it down. Isn't it wonderful we're all here together? Isn't it wonderful we're all here together? Now this time we're going to say it slowly, but I'd like you to actually see if you can go into the space in between the words. Just see if you can go into the space in between the words. Isn't it wonderful we're all here together? Now this time, go into the space and see if you can find any limits to that space. Is there any place where that it stops and there's something else on the other side of that limitation? Isn't it wonderful we're all together. Look closely, high and low, left and right. See if you can find any limitations to this spaciousness in between the words where something else is on the other side of the border, the fence, or the wall. Isn't it wonderful? We're all here together. When you're ready, you can gently begin to open your eyes. So when I asked you to slow down the sentence with me, were you able to, kind of go into the space in between the words? Yes? A little bit? No? Yes? And then I asked you, we're going to say it slow again, and go into the space and see if you can find any limitations to it, a fence, a border, a wall, where there was something on the other side. Did anybody find a limit to it, a border, a wall, a fence, where something was on the other side? No distinctions. It's the very same, no thoughts, no things, no age, no body, no gender, no voices, no you, no mass, no weight, no size, no color, no density, and no location. And now you can see from your own experience, it's constant. It's the presence that you are. We didn't do anything except slow a sentence down. And you looked closely enough into your immediate experience in the only place you exist, and you could not find any limitations to it. And if it just shows up in between the objects, it gives clear evidence, your own experience verifies it, that it is timeless and unchanging. Stuff, a word came and went like anything else. So I'm going to suggest, if you find yourself being crappy to yourself, you got a story going on about how you're a beanbag, just slow it down. I'm a bean bag and a jerk. It immediately takes you out of the stuff and gives you access to that which is universal, unchanging, and timeless. Am I making sense here? That's the knowingness, the integrative intention, where we can attune to, because we have to be engaged in action, but we can be attuned to the impersonal intelligence of prana, the innate intelligence of impersonal prana. Am I making sense? So now you have the direct experience when we're saying that we're using the first half and the second half of the pose to cultivate an attunement to impersonal awareness and the sensations of personalized prana. Because that's where the clogs are. Yeah, we've personalized it. But we're not getting crazy about it. We're just simply shining the warm light of our knowingness without trying to, and letting it relax, open. And we're using this as a physical metaphor for allowing life to come to us, rather than us trying to reach out and get life. Am I making sense here? You can see that you were so at ease, and you were engaged in action. You were engaged in it. You were so at ease. You didn't even want to open your eyes. Now, I don't do this while you're driving, obviously, but what we're learning is how to be engaged in action without getting caught. Because what's wrong with this? Until you think about it. All right, let's, once again, now that we've had a little experience with we've had the highest experience of yoga. When we chant the sound of Om here to close, reflecting upon Patanjali's statement that meditating upon its meaning, you don't quite know that yet, we'll get there, but watch for all the obstacles. The obstacles are ignorance, egoism, likes, dislikes, and clinging to bodily life. Simply observe that all the obstacles disappear and simultaneously arise. No plus of things, no age, no body, no gender, no wisdom, no you. No mass, no weight, no size, no color, no density, and no location. Commonly referred to as the inner self. Alright? Let's sit up together and close the eyes. Once again, simply relaxing in this gathering of friends. If it feels appropriate, please add your voice. Very slowly and gently begin to allow your hands to come together in prayer position in front of your heart. Begin to allow a felt sense of reverence to well up within you for what you have seen about yourself. Nurture this direct perception, this self-evident knowingness without relying on any object or agent for verification. It's not even yours, it's who you are. Nurture this direct perception that it may fill everything that you do. And you may extend it to everyone that you meet. Thank you, dear friends, for this opportunity to give what I have received. You truly